Last Tuesday, June the 5th, was UN World Environment Day, and to mark the event, China's Ministry for Environmental Protection thought it would be a good idea to chastise foreign embassies in Beijing for releasing their own air quality readings. Vice Minister Wu Xiaoqing accused the embassies of interfering in China's internal affairs and violating diplomatic protocol and local law. Wu was presumed to be referring to the US Embassy, although he didn't actually name it, which has its own air quality monitor and posts the numbers hourly on a Twitter feed. The figures are regularly much worse than those published by local authorities and often fall within the unhealthy band, as defined by the US EPA rating system. This measures air pollution by a PM 2.5 standard. Now, this is the number of particles of less than 2.5 micrometers wide in a given volume of air. And these tiny particles are generally considered to pose the most dangerous threat to health because they can become lodged in the lungs. Wu also said that it was unfair to judge China's air quality by the same high standards as the US, as it is a developing country. China, in fact, permits concentrations of these PM 2.5 particles that are twice those allowed by the EPA. While in response, the US State Department said the embassy had violated no diplomatic conventions and would continue to tweet the figures. It added that Washington would have no problem if Chinese embassies wanted to start monitoring air quality in the US capital and publish their own reports. China's foreign ministry tersely turned down that offer, saying it wasn't interested. Well, the spat has led to heated discussion amongst Chinese net users, many of whom have long complained about the stark differences between the figures released by local environmental agencies and those from the US Embassy. Now let's join our researcher Esther Dong in the newsroom to see what's being said about this. Okay, Esther, first give us a general picture of the reaction online to this little dispute. What are you hearing?
Well, first, I'd like to say that this has remained a hugely popular topic among net users over the past few days. And as far as I can see, the majority of posters are shocked at the Environment Ministry's remarks and feel they are completely nonsense. First, lots of people have a bone to pick with claims that releasing air quality data is China's internal affair. This confused poster is on QQ.com. Our national broadcaster has weather reports about cities in many other countries every day. So by this logic, heavy wind in New York is America's internal affair. And so our national broadcaster is interfering with U.S. internal affairs? And Hu Tutu is apparently fed up with the government's constant use of internal affairs as a justification for whatever it wants. The allegation of interfering in domestic affairs has become an all-purpose excuse. It means the government is in charge of everything in this country. Even if its people are poisoned to death, it's still nobody else's business. And another phrase posters seem unhappy with is developing country. One typical such example is 蝎座小魔女, who has this on Weibo.com. The official says that it's not right to judge China's situation by American standards. So now they realize China is a developing country. But when they insist that our oil prices should be in line with the world market standard, did they ever stop to think that we are a developing country? And as for that response from the foreign ministry about not being interested in the U.S. air quality, posters also have a lot to say. Like this comment from He Ming 9天. Of course, they have no interest in America's air quality. They can't even ensure the air quality in their own country. How can they have the confidence to monitor that in the U.S.? And to be honest, if it wasn't because the U.S. first introduced PM 2.5 to China, our government would have no interest in even measuring the air quality here. And this poster from Liao Ning has this angry comment on 163.com. The environmental ministry first cheats people themselves and then warns others not to tell the truth. So barefaced. Finally, this poster on Yahoo.com has this rather sarcastic take. Well, we are living in a country with the best sense of humor and the most ridiculous jokes in the whole world.
Okay, not a lot of support or sympathy there, it seems, with the ministry. So why do net users think they came out with this complaint in the first place, and on Environment Day of all days?
Well, a certain number of posters have similar questions, like this one from Shanxi. As long as the embassies don't harm our interests in political, military, or economic fields, why don't we let them do this? And it's actually good for the improvement of our air quality. while a lot more attribute this to the authorities feeling they needed to control everything inside the country. For example, Tong Jian says, it's due to the government's long-term mindset of keeping tight control. They worry about any information that is not verified by them because they fear it will disturb the economic and social order. To be honest, the government has the duty and the right to release air quality data, but it has no right to stop others from doing this. And this poster on Baidu.com has this conclusion. Well, it's the US who first let us know about the PM 2.5 system, and only then did our government publish the data, but under pressure. What's more, their data is different from the data given by the US Embassy, and the Chinese people tend to believe the US data. So our government is trying to stop the US from releasing the data under the name of interfering with our domestic affairs. And finally, Chen Yanhua Diao, who writes on clubchina.com.cn. Well, with the data from US Embassy, our government can't make up lies to cheat us ordinary people. Of course, they are bent out of shape.
So I guess that net users are generally happy the embassy will be continuing to release this PM 2.5 data, despite what the Vice Minister asked?
Well, for the majority of pollsters, the answer is yes. Although plenty argue that the U.S. is not doing this for Chinese people's sake. First, we have Qi Si Hui Sheng on Sohu.com. Beijing is often enveloped with thick yellow fog, and we can't see buildings even just a few blocks away. But our official data shows that the air is only slightly polluted. So I strongly support the U.S. publishing the air quality data. But there are also still others who agree with Wu's remarks about fair standards, like Blank Moon King on M4.cn, who says, it's really unfair for the U.S. to measure the air quality in China, where industry is booming by using the standard in their own country, which is now in a post-industrial era. And finally, this is a user based in the U.S. who says, it is true that the air quality in mainland China isn't good, but it's not right for the U.S. to measure the air quality right there in China. It's just like I invite you to my home and you complain that my home is dirty and smelly. I think that's also why the U.S. is not well-liked worldwide.
Okay, Esther, anything else before we wrap up?
Well, based on the comments I've seen, lots of posters think it's high time for the government to change their politics-oriented mindset to deal with things concerning people's daily lives. For example, this poster writes on Yahoo.com. To judge the air quality, there's no political standard, only scientific and technological standards. And letting people breathe healthy air is the highest priority. And finally, we have this poster on 163.com. When problems emerge, what lots of our government bodies do is try to cover up things and fool the people rather than trying to solve them. But nowadays, it's not that easy to take in the ordinary people. I suggest the government face up to the air pollution and try and address it instead of wasting time on looking for different excuses.
Well, that sounds like good advice for governments the world over. Thanks for that, Esther. And that was China Take researcher Esther Dung with online reaction to the spat over the US Embassy releasing air quality data in Beijing that doesn't necessarily always agree with the local authorities' figures.